Welcome one, welcome all. Thank you for joining me. I am Billy Ray Parrish here for God's Gospel Radio Ministries, the Seat of a Nation Talking Points, or Talking Points for the Seat of a Nation. It's been a while since we have done this. In fact, this is the first time that I've done this live, Talking Points that is. So this is a special program. I wanted to do this for some time now, but me and Mike and Bobby have had to gotten some things straightened out. But now that we have, here I am. Over the last few weeks, I have gotten different pieces of emails asking me what is going on with the election. As you know, the election was held on November the 3rd of 2020. So that's been over 2 weeks ago. And we still do not have a winner yet. I understand that the mainstream media, the corporate media, most of it, they have declared Joe Biden to be the projected winner, but that's just a projection. Joe Biden is not the president. Donald Trump is still your president until January of 2021. And with everything that is coming out now, he will be your president for 4 years after January of 2021. Now, I want to explain something to you. Talking Points is a program where we focus on a particular issue rather than a broad segment of issues. What we do here is we give you talking points about whatever the issue is being discussed. I explain this to you because this has been something that has been in the works for some time now. We have talked about doing this, and probably you may remember anyway, back in 2018 when me and Mike first got together, we actually started doing some talking points, but we never did them live. We've been talking for some time now about actually making this an actual program. And with what's going on right now, what better time than actually doing it? This is something that me and Mike are passionate about because, well, we love the gospel. We love spreading the gospel to everyone who's willing to listen. And people are waking up and seeing what's going on. When people email me and ask me what is going on with the election, rather than tuning in to the corporate media, whether it's Fox News, ABC, NBC, CBS, whatever, that means a lot to me because they're paying attention. Y'all are paying attention, and I am honored that I can give some type of solution. I hope I'm able to give some type of solution. Long story short, this election is far from over. It's not over with yet. We have a long way to go. Trump is laying back, letting his lawyers bring out everything that they are finding, and they are finding a whole lot. When Donald Trump says something, he does it for a reason. He doesn't do it just to have it laid out there. Some of these politicians, they just talk. That's all it is talk. But with Trump, there's a reason for it. And I'm passionate about this. There's been a lot to transpire over the last few weeks, and we will go into different issues. We are not going to be able to go into it all at once, but we are going to have many programs to follow. Now, I understand that people do not know what to trust or whom to trust right now. And I'll be honest with you, there's very few that you can actually trust that's on television or in print. The radio seems to be a much better alternative, but a lot of people don't listen to political radio, and I understand that. I love this stuff, so I really get into it. But I understand that there's people who just want to know who won the election. We look at the different media platforms out there, like the news stations, for example. They seem to be saying something different, every single one of them. Or, actually, for the first time in a very long time, almost all the major news platforms are saying the exact same thing. And when they're doing this, you have to wonder what's going on. This is scary because they have never been on the same page about anything. 9/11, there for a few days they were, but that was it. Fox News is included in this, and this is something that is painful for me to say because Fox News is a station that I hold a lot of respect for, at least I used to. Now, Fox News is not much different than any of the rest. Now, actually, if you've ever watched The Seat of the Nation, me and Mike have talked about how Fox News is not much better than the other stations for a long time now, and they're not. Fox News has been going downhill for a few years, It's just been slowly, so you've not noticed it as greatly, like with the rest of them. It used to be Fox News was the only conservative alternative to the other platforms out there. They actually had a conservative agenda. They were fair and balanced, which after Rupert Murdoch stepped down and Roger Ailes died and Murdoch's kids took over, the station really took a far left slant. And it's noticeable with the talents that they were pushing. Unfortunately, it's not just some of the newer people that they're pushing that's gone over to the dark side. Here recently, we have learned about how Tucker Carlson himself has began to go to the dark side, which is shocking to me because Tucker, I thought, was one of the few good ones still left, but it seems that he is going to the dark side. Sean Hannity is still one that I hold in great respect, and eventually, hopefully, at least I'm hoping, Hannity will be joining Newsmax or maybe going out on his own. Fox News is hard for me to watch anymore, and it's because of stuff like this. There are different examples that I can give you, whether it's Neil Cavuto, whether it's Shannon Bream interrupting on a hot mic, actually, not understanding why people would question the call that they made for Joe Biden being the presidency or being the president. They called Arizona very early, which was very questionable. And we know why they called Arizona so early. Former campaign chief of staff for Joe Biden, Danny O'Brien, is now the vice president for Fox News. So all this stuff is starting to make sense. My point is, this saddens me greatly about Fox News because, again, this is one of the stations that I used to watch almost all day. I'm a news junkie and I love this stuff. But, again, we're used to seeing these things, especially in the year 2020. 2020, well, kind of leaves you numb. Everything that happens, it seems to be one big letdown. But when we think about what's going on right now, none of this should be a surprise. If 2020 has taught us anything, it's to expect the unexpected. Seriously, it really has just it's just left you with not really knowing what to think about any of this stuff. Is it all for show? I'll be honest with you. Right after the day after the election, when they would not call these states, and it looked like Joe Biden was gaining, I was wondering if everything that I had seen over the last 4 years or 3.5 years was all for show. Now, I'd stayed up all day Tuesday, all night Tuesday night, and I was up all day Wednesday, so I was really tired, but I wasn't thinking correctly. What I was seeing from Fox News was Joe Biden was closing on Donald Trump and that he was actually going to surpass Donald Trump and become the president. I couldn't believe what I was seeing because when the election started, when the polls started closing, the polling booths started closing, Donald Trump had a big lead, an insurmountable lead. Then they stopped counting. Why did they stop counting? This is something that I could not understand. Now, a lot of this information has come out and we understand why now these different states stopped counting. But we'll get into that later. But there on Wednesday, I remember it directly. 2 o'clock in the morning, which would have been 1 o'clock a.m. here, Donald Trump gives his press conference explaining what was going on. He said that he won the election. They won the election. But he questioned what the media was putting out there. He said he didn't want to find at 3, 4 in the morning thousands of ballots, just one big dump. And come to find out, 4 in the morning, different states had massive dumps all for Joe Biden. What was Donald Trump telling us? He was letting us know that what was about to come was not good. He set them up. And when I tell people that this was all part of the plan, they don't understand why. Or they don't understand what I'm talking about. And that's okay, because there will be more programs to explain all of this. I want to tell you, though, it's not over. It's far from over. In fact, my choice for news now is Newsmax. Newsmax Television is the most honest network on the airwaves right now. A lot of people like OAN, but I do not get that. If you get OAN and or Newsmax, turn off the other mainstream stations and tune into one of those or both of them. The Newsmax network has really garnered a lot of popularity over the last few weeks since the election, so much so that their free app in the App Store, whether on Apple or Android, has climbed up to number 2, the most popular free download since the election. And that's great. That tells you just how popular this station has become. People want to know what's going on, and this station gives it to you. The Newsmax station has not yet called the election because there's a lot to straighten out. There's a lot to sort through. We have to sort through these legal challenges that are going on. I know most of you have heard about the Dominion voting system, and rightfully so, as this is a game changer. It's nothing new, though. We've known about Dominion for a long time now. We're not going to discuss Dominion too much here because there's a lot to get into, and I want to catch you up on what has come out here over the last few days. When we talk about the election, people want the truth. They want to know what is going on, and that's great. This is commonplace. It used to be commonplace that you turn into the news and they give it to you, but again, we don't have a fair and balanced media. We don't. Fox News did away with that a long time ago. We have a real integrity issue inside most newsrooms across the country. And again, I'm a news junkie, so I love this stuff. And I can tell you that there are more honest media companies outside of America than inside of our own country. One example of this is Sky News Television. I actually enjoy listening to this station, and you can find them on YouTube. I'm not sure about Rumble, and I encourage you to check out Rumble. It's another platform, media platform, that gives content creators the opportunity to do what I'm doing right now. Dan Bongino has invested into Rumble. Sean Hannity and others have come over to Rumble, so check them out. I am on YouTube as well, as you probably know. I'm on YouTube right now doing this. YouTube will probably remove this video as they have censored a lot of my stuff, and that's okay because we expect it now. We're seeing that with Fox News. Anytime you have a difference of opinion, they censor you. And I remember a few months ago when Newt Gingrich was on Outnumbered, which is a program that comes on Fox News, 11 o'clock my time, 12 o'clock on the East Coast. He brought up the name George Soros, and he was quickly shot down. This is sad because George Soros is a big pain for us here in America. He wants to completely destroy America. He embraces socialism or communism. Vladimir Lenin has popularly said, the first step or the ultimate goal of socialism is communism, and that's what you get. That's what you end up with. They're actually really almost the same thing. But when we look at the media, they do not cover any of the stories fairly. They slant the coverage to fit their particular agenda, and we've seen this since the election with Fox News. Again, it's been this way for a while with Fox, but it's never been this noticeable. And this is why people are making a great exodus from Fox News. It's gotten so bad, in fact, that they are now losing the ratings war to MSNBC. This has not been done since 2001. We're talking about almost 20 years. MSNBC is one of the worst out there, but Fox is losing to them. In fact, if you do a research, it tells you that November the 12th of 2020, Fox News actually lost a daily ratings battle to none other than MSNBC, and they barely beat CNN's ratings for that same day. That should tell you something. CNN is actually up for sale from AT&T, or at least they're reporting wanting to put them up for sale. That tells you how bad the situation is with CNN. CNN was the first actual all day cable news network. And well, you know what they've become. They're just another propaganda piece for the Democratic Party. And you look at all their commentators, analysts, political experts, and on over there, and you understand why this news network is no longer respected among the American people. But before we go into our topic of the 2020 presidential election, I want everyone to know that what you're being sold from the corporate media, especially about the 2020 presidential election, is a lie, a sham, and a hoax. We will explain everything over a period of time, especially over the next few weeks, because we are going to have some time to explain this and catch you up to date. I don't want to go back to the past too far because there's a lot that's come out over the last few days that I do want to explain that will make a lot more sense. And this is going to be done on talking points and imagining, if you will, and I hope that me and Mike can get back to doing the Seat of a Nation. But what we do here is different than what you experience with Bobby and his Southern gospel music and Jeff Powers and his great preaching and on and on. Even from Boone himself. We rarely play music on this program because we are about news and getting the story out. We want to get into the story from the very beginning. I love Southern gospel music. I love gospel music. And this is why we are on God's Gospel Radio Ministry. But we also love spreading the Word of God, spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ. And there are many ways to do this. To make a long story short, again, the 2020 presidential election is far from over. Although Joe Biden has been declared the winner, the media does not have any authority to do this. They can project a winner, and that's fine, but all they are cheerleaders. When they say that we project Joe Biden to win this state or Donald Trump to win this state, doesn't mean they're actually going to win it. In fact, you go back to 2016, Hillary Clinton had two of her electors switch for Donald Trump. He won 304 electoral votes, but when all the votes were certified and the electors voted, he ended up with 306. And this can happen. So again, if the media tells you Biden is the winner, just toss that aside. It's just another narrative they want you to buy into. It's not going to happen. Joe Biden will not be the president. Let's go back to the ratings war because I used to love Fox News. And it saddens me what the network has become. But when we look at average viewers from 6 a.m. to midnight on that date of November the 12th, you're seeing MSNBC at 2,041,813 viewers. Okay. Fox News, 2,025,111, with CNN at just under 2 million. Why is this the case? Why? It's not because people have changed their beliefs or what they like or dislike. Rather, Fox News is no longer the station that it was 4 years ago, and it's not even the station that it was a year ago. Again, this is sad because I used to love this network. If you've ever watched The Seat of a Nation, though, and I'm sure most of you have, then you have heard me repeat the same concern, but it's even far worse than what any of us knew. We do have to be careful by whom or what we entertain. And this is where I want to get into Scripture. Hebrews 13:2 tells us, "Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares." Which means, do not forget to be a good person. Do the right thing, even when nobody's watching, or you don't think anybody's watching, because you actually may be entertaining an angel. And this includes the media. We shouldn't get away from doing what's right just because the cameras are rolling. In fact, you should do what's right, or what you consider to be right at all times. You do the best that you can with what you have. Proverbs 22:1 explains to us that a good name is rather to be chosen than great riches, and loving favor rather than silver and gold. I love this verse because a lot of people believe that riches, great riches, is fame and fortune. But That could be a part of it, but a good name is better than any of that. I understand that a reputation is what people think of you, and your character is what you actually are or what you actually do. And that's part of your good name. Just because someone says you are something doesn't mean you are that. But if you prove them right, then, well, that's who you are. This is why I have turned most of the news outlets out. Just tune them out completely because, well, what you're getting is just more of this George Soros propaganda. And Facebook is a part of this. Facebook is just one more tool that is being used. In 2016, Donald Trump did say that the greatest tool that the Clintons had at their disposal was the corporate media, and he was absolutely correct. 90% of the media, entertainment industry, on and on, are owned by 6 companies. So you probably can understand why everything that you're hearing, or most of what you're hearing, lines up to be the same. Twitter has come out and said that once Trump is no longer president, he will lose his immunity because Trump will be the president for another 4 years. I do expect Twitter at some point to remove Donald Trump's Twitter account, and this is going to get very interesting. We don't know how this is going to play out just yet. It hasn't happened, but Twitter has already explained that Trump will lose his immunity. All world leaders have an immunity on this platform, so stay tuned. It's going to get really interesting. Proverbs 10:9 tells us, "He that walketh uprightly walketh surely, but he that perverteth his ways shall be known." Nothing that we do is naked before God. Or nothing that we do is hidden from God. Everything is naked. God sees everything that we do. Just because we can fool man doesn't mean that we can fool God. And this has been proven time and time and time again. Look at what's all coming out about the election. When I say that this had to happen, that this was part of the plan, what I mean that there was a bigger plan that was attached to this. Donald Trump was not elected in 2016 just to be a president for 4 years. He was elected to get things done. I did not understand this when I went and voted for Donald Trump. I thought he was just another politician. Yes, I thought he could get things done. I thought he would, business-wise. He was a businessman. He knew how to get things done. But I did not know what he was actually up against. I didn't realize that he was up against the cabal. I didn't realize that the deep state went as deep as it actually does. And this is on both sides. When you see Donald Trump fighting up there in Washington, D.C., and so few other Republicans are actually on his behalf, fighting for him, then you know who is part of the swamp. I am surprised that Lindsey Graham gave him a lot of money. $500,000 he donated to his defense fund, and I was glad to see this. I was surprised, but I was very glad. Where are the other Republicans, though? There were too many just sitting idly by. When you see people like George W. Bush call and congratulate Joe Biden, you know just how bad the Bushes are. Not just George W., it's Jeb and his dad, and Barbara as well, but we won't get into that. We will not get into that right now because, well, there's bigger fish to fry. And Trump knows all about the deep state players. And the deep state is not just here in America, it's worldwide. I was surprised that Benjamin Netanyahu, the leader of Israel, called to congratulate Joe Biden. Why would he do this? Knowing what we know now, why would he do this? Is Netanyahu a part of the cabal? Is he part of the deep state? Is he part of all of this satanic rituals that's going on right now, all this plan that Satan has put into place? I'm not sure, but it makes you wonder. So stay tuned on that one. Now, just because it's popular to do something does not mean that it is right. And we know that. And we saw this during the 2020 presidential election. Donald Trump, again, knew the playbook. What I mean by that is, this is what we've seen in 2016. The only difference between right now and 2016 is that Trump won the election on election night. It was so clear and concise that they didn't have a backup plan. They didn't have mail-in ballots to go and get. They didn't have millions and millions of these ballots just laying around. This is what the COVID-19 situation was all about. It was to get people so afraid to go out, to live their lives, that they would do whatever they were instructed to do. They were instructed to mail in votes, in which they did at at the highest level that we've ever seen in our history. In fact, I heard one commentator say a couple different times that the early vote or the mail-in ballots and the votes on election day were a tale of two tales. Joe Biden decisively won the mail-in ballot vote, except for two states, and they were the North and South Dakota. On election day, however, Donald Trump won every state with the exception of New York and California. So it definitely was a tale of two tales. Now, when we look at the election itself, Donald Trump won such a landslide victory, such a massive victory, that different states and different counties had to stop the voting process as a way to get more votes for Joe Biden. If you're counting the votes, you know exactly what is needed to bring your candidate up to date. And this is where the voting systems came into play: Dominion, Smartmatic, Clarity, and so forth. This is where these systems come into play. It's not just one program, it's a family of programs, and what we're seeing is massive. We've never seen anything quite like this. This is the revolution all over again. What we saw in 1775 with Benedict Arnold selling out West Point to the hated British, you're seeing this on full display. Instead of fighting with our guns, we're going to have to fight at the ballot box. We're going to have to fight in the courts. And eventually, we're probably going to have to fight in the streets again. This time, though, it won't be against the British or a foreign enemy. It'll be against our own people. And this is sad because this goes so deep, much deeper than any of us would ever have known about, if not for Donald Trump. And don't think that this was the first time something like this actually happened, because it's not. There is enough proof in now that Barack Obama was using the same system in 2008 and 2012. We know this because the creator of the algorithm for scorecard, Dennis Montgomery, went to the FBI, gave him all the evidence that was there that he had, but the FBI just sat on it. Now, the one in charge of the FBI at the time was James Comey, none other than James Comey. Sorry, I'm just checking out the time and seeing how much time we have left. We've got, well, we've been on about 30 minutes. Let's go a little bit longer. The main purpose of this show was to let you know that this is far from over. What the media is trying to sell you is not what is actually happening. It's a narrative. And just like with COVID-19, they want to see how far they can push it. On Saturday, they canceled Judge Jeanine. Fox News did. They canceled Judge Jeanine so you could watch Joe Biden's victory party. Nobody was social distancing then. They were partying in the city streets. Joe Biden was, well, he wasn't there. He was somewhere else. But go figure that. That's where Joe's always at. The reason why they did not campaign so hard, him or Kamala Harris, had to do with all of this being in the works. They had all this put together, so they didn't have to campaign very hard. Trump was out there hitting 2, 3, 4 different states a day, sometimes 5 in one day. He is a worker. He's a worker bee. He's a worker for the people. For we the people. He represents us. When we go to vote for somebody, we vote for the person who we expect to best represent us. For the 80 million people, and yes, there were 80 million people who voted for Donald Trump throughout the election, whether it was early voting or in person. The majority of the votes come on election day. Do not be mistaken there. People got in line because they knew what was going to happen if Joe Biden ever got into office. Eventually, what we're seeing with communism or socialism from other countries is what's going to be set up here. For a long time now, for more than 100 years, we have had a push for a new world order. This is not something that is new. It takes time to put these systems in place. You go back 50 years with Richard Nixon going away from the gold backed dollar, opening up China to our country. And you see that playing out right now. A lot of the problems that we have right now with China is because of Richard Nixon. He's not the only goat in this, but he's a big goat in the bigger scheme of things. When you look at the World Bank, what we're seeing right now, they loan people so much money as a way, or loan countries so much money as a way to keep them in debt always. Have you ever wondered why your wages never seem to go up except under someone like Donald Trump, who understands what's actually at play here? He took restrictions off of business, the business regulations and restrictions that were smothering businesses. He took those off, and the economy just skyrocketed. We saw this in the first 3 years of his term. Then, as the election was getting closer, they concocted this plan as a way to get people in their homes, sick, unable to work, unable to do their basic everyday activities. And then they implemented this mail-in voting system. They did it for a reason. They learned from 2016. They learned they could not beat Donald Trump at the ballot box. They learned that. And while it was dirty, it was very dirty, they were able to take advantage of people's emotions. Joseph Goebbels, Hitler's propaganda expert, explained that a lie told once remains a lie, but a lie told 1,000 times becomes accepted as truth, and it does. And we're seeing that play out. The mainstream media has adopted this mindset, explaining to people that what they're seeing is reality. Joe Biden and so forth is president. His transition team, he holds the office of president-elect, which there is no such office. There is no office of president-elect. Donald Trump was the president-elect for a few months, but remember, Hillary Clinton conceded. She conceded that night. Now, she has never accepted accountability and responsibility for a loss as everyone else is, whether it's the media, James Comey, the deplorables, the bigots. I'm a deplorable, according to her, according to Joe Biden, and so forth. Point is, everything that we're seeing right now is all a sham. This is not the Twilight Zone. This is reality. Truth is stranger than fiction. It shouldn't be that way, but it feels like we're living in a George Orwell novel. 1984, it just feels like everything that's going on is going by the book, and not Orwell's novel, the Bible, because it actually is. And COVID-19 is just one part of this. What's the next step? When we look at what they're saying right now, if Biden got in there, 4 to 6 week lockdown. That's what his advisors are saying. And we know that 4 to 6 weeks will extend to 90 days, 120 days, and it'll go further and further and further. Ticketmaster has said if you want to buy tickets, you got to prove that you tested negative for the COVID-19 virus, that you don't have it. All this stuff is evil, and it's going by the book. It's unfortunately that way for a reason. They're doing these things on purpose. They want us scared, they want us panicking, and they want us looking to the government for answers. The problem, as they see it, is too many people are waking up and they're not buying into this stuff anymore. Ask yourself this. Over the summer, over the last year anyway, why were we told to stay in our homes? Don't go to work, don't go to the grocery store, don't go to church, don't live your life. But if you wanted to go out and protest, come on out. If you wanted to go to a funeral for someone who you love died, you couldn't. If you wanted to go to a memorial service held for George Floyd, you could. Didn't have to social distance either. Why is all this stuff? When Donald Trump went to Minnesota, 25,000 people wanted into his rally. He wasn't allowed to have but 200 or 2,500 people there, 250, whatever the number was, a small portion of the population or that wanted to come in were allowed. So Trump says that he's going to call his rallies peaceful protests. That way he can get around that. Why are they in different states, the leaders, why are they telling you to cancel Thanksgiving? Cancel Christmas. In Chicago, you can't even have Thanksgiving. Out west, you can only have 6 or 8 or 10 people over in one house. What about mansions? How does that work out? None of this stuff makes any sense. And the leaders that are implementing these orders are not following their own orders, which lets you know that you're being fooled. I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to make anyone upset, but I have seen a lot of people who listen to us who put up on their profiles, wear a mask, it could save a life, or stay at home, it could save a life. None of that is true. The masks don't work. 94% of people who contract the COVID-19 virus were wearing masks. That's 85%. 94% of the people with COVID-19 that died from it had 2 or more underlying or pre-existing conditions. This virus here is about as deadly as the flu, and the numbers show it. In fact, if you look at influenza, the flu, pneumonia, and so forth, they're not even labeling these things anymore. They're all adding it as one. This virus is so clever that it's done away with the flu. It's done away with pneumonia and so forth because they're all adding it in together. It's almost the same virus, and it is. Just look at the symptoms and what happens when you have it. But they're trying to sell you that the flu is worthy to shut down the entire country. And if Biden ever got into office, they would shut down the world, and you're starting to see that in different places. Then they would make you to take a vaccine, a mandatory vaccine. And I'm not going to say the vaccine is the mark of the beast. I'm not saying that. It's one part of it, though. It's just there's a bigger step coming. There's a bigger picture behind it all. And we've seen this play out over the last year. COVID-19 was a way to manipulate people and their emotions. I've had people call me out because of what I see about COVID-19. It's a spiritual battle. Everything here in a Christian's life is spiritual. None of this stuff is happening by accident. They're trying to see how far they can push you. There is going to be a vaccine that's not going to save or cure this virus. Look at the flu. There is a flu vaccine. But guess what? People still die. What are we looking for with the vaccine? Is it just a way to feel better? A guarantee makes you feel better. It gives you a good feeling inside. But a guarantee is just as good as the person making the guarantee. If the ones selling you the virus are the same ones selling you the fear, that should tell you something right there. So we've been on an air for about 30 minutes now, a little over 30 minutes, and we could go on for another 30 minutes and still not even scratch the surface of what's going on. What we're seeing with the presidential election, it was just a way to see exactly in which direction the country was going to go. Were we going to go for freedom and the Constitution with Donald Trump, or were we going to take a major step back and go with just another world system? The plan has been in place for a while now to make America no better than any other nation. And that's how they implement a new world government or a new world order, a one world system. They put this into place as a way to make everyone the same. That way, if they want to transport people from here to there, they can because there's no borders. And if everyone's adhering to what they're being told to do, well, guess what? There's no resistance. There's no hesitation. If you've given up all your weapons, and that's the next step in this, or another step in this, giving up your weapons, you don't have any way to defend yourself. It's like declawing a cat. Why would you ever declaw a cat? Understand that their claws hurt you, but that's their defense mechanism. If we, as people, do not have defense mechanisms, we're done for. And this is what they did with Nazi Germany. Hitler understood this. He manipulated people's emotions as a way to get them to turn over their weapons voluntarily. And the ones that didn't, well, mass grave they went. This is going to be the fate that we have to accept if we do not wake up and see what they're actually doing. And COVID-19 was just one part of this. The virus itself is no more deadlier than the flu. And you can look at the CDC's own numbers. It's funny when we talk about the CDC because this is not a company that is trying to cure diseases. It sells vaccines. $4 billion a year it makes. It owns 20 or more patents. They don't want the world to be cured. They want to make as many patients as they possibly can because it's all about the money. This is why Donald Trump cut off the WHO, or the World Health Organization. This is why he's done so much, because he understood just how evil these companies, these organizations in these different countries are. Not were, but are. There's a reason why the FBI and the CIA have been left out on different operations, and we'll explain this in further episodes. But as of right now, I just want people to understand that the election is not over with. Joe Biden is not your president. Joe Biden has a transition team right now. The GSA will not certify the election, so he is not being allowed to take certain roles. Why? Well, because he's not the president. He's not the president-elect. He's not even the president-elect. By the media standards, yes, but in reality, no. Just remember that. Next time someone says President-elect Joe Biden or President Joe Biden, just walk away. Chances are you cannot discuss logically or rationally with these people, so it's better just to walk away. It may save a friendship. It may save a family relationship. So just be aware that what we're seeing right now is all a sham. What we're hearing coming out, Sidney Powell, Rudy Giuliani, Lynn Wood, Jenna Ellis, Pam Bondi, Richard Grenell, on and on. These people are on the ground. They're doing their due diligence. They are working as hard as they possibly can for the president. They have all the evidence. Just know that. Regardless of what these media companies and pundits are trying to tell you, they have the evidence. It's all there. They are gathering up as much as they possibly can, because when they go to court, and this will go to court, do not mistake this. This will go to court. This will go to the Supreme Court. The lawsuits that are being thrown out, some are being thrown out. This was part of the plan. This was part of the process. This is a process. All of this, you have to go through certain procedures before it can play out, before it can work out. They have time to do this. Remember, President Gore was president for 37 days. Joe Biden may be president for 37 days, for 25 days, however long it takes. But we gave Al Gore a month and 2 weeks to do what he thought he needed to do. So let's give Donald Trump the same amount of time. Let's give him the same leeway that we gave Al Gore. Let's just be fair and balanced here. Joe Biden has not won anything. Donald Trump has. On election night, he won a landslide victory. But he knew that in order to save the system in which we have played, this is the only system that we have. We are being sold the illusion of freedom. We don't really have freedom in voting. That is, when we go to vote, it seems like both candidates, or all three candidates, are nearly the same. They're nearly identical. And it's been this way over the course of my life. I didn't realize it at a particular time or at any point in history until over the last year and a half. You look at, just in my lifetime, George W. Bush and John Kerry. That was my first election in which I voted in. Both candidates were nearly the same. Just really, the big difference had to be in the the idea of abortion, faith, and so forth. Bush had a image, or the image that he was this lonesome dove, I guess you'd say, from Texas, this cowboy. He rode into town on a horse. He was a Christian. He was here to save the nation. That image is false. George Bush is anything but that. He is not this grandfatherly figure that you have, that we've been sold of him. And neither is John Kerry. There's not much difference. Their foreign policies and so forth. And remember, when I say policies, both men have almost identical thoughts on the entire world. Globalism. Globalism is going to lead in the New World Order. And that's where the evil comes from. Then we look at John McCain, Barack Obama. A lot of people believe John McCain was a war hero. Do your research. He was anything but a war hero. Barack Obama, when you do your research about his lineage, he was George Herbert Walker Bush's first cousin. I'm not making this up. This is reality. Stanley Donald was Barack Obama's grandfather. Ann Donald was Barack Obama's mom. Stanley Armour Donald and George Herbert Walker Bush were first cousins. And just do the math. I mean, and then there was 5 or 6 presidents in which the lineage lines up with Barack Obama. So he wasn't just someone that came out of the blue. He was someone they were putting into, they were molding this guy into becoming the president for a long time. Him and John McCain were both establishment politicians. None of them were about change, not real change. What we saw from Obama over 8 years were more of the same old establishment politicians, making America weaker. When Bush, George Herbert Walker Bush, said a kinder, gentler America, what he meant was one that was no different than any other nation. This is what Barack Obama continued with. He'd had 8 years to do this, and he did. Look what he did with the military. He made it a laughing stock, which it had become that. You could allow homosexuals into the military, Pete Buttigieg, for example. Then you could have them become men, women become men become women. Chelsea Handler or Chelsea Manning. This stuff is a joke. Hillary Clinton was supposed to finish what Barack Obama had just continued on. He didn't start anything. This had been in the process for a long time. He just moved it forward. The United Nations Project 2030, go check it out. The New World Order, implementing a New World Order by 2030. All these things are real. Yesterday's conspiracies are today's realities. Not just one conspiracy, it's many. I've been called a conspiracy theorist by many people that I know, and that's okay. Probably some of you are looking at me like, what is this guy talking about? There's a reason why the media is not telling you any of what's really going on. In fact, the things that I'm saying have been talked about for years. People just don't listen enough. And they're now being spouted out there by other networks like Newsmax. Newsmax has Sidney Powell on, seems like every day, telling the people what is going on. They're keeping people up to date with the process each step of the way. When I say that this had to happen, again, the system that we have, this is the only system that we know. Donald Trump was not elected to just be another 4-year or 8-year president. He was a game changer. He came to restore prominence in America, integrity in America, good morning in America. Again, it was to be what we had under President Reagan, except he came to save a dying system. This system, this corrupt system, is the only one that we have. Trump came to save it. How can you save a broken system? You have to tear it completely down. But you can't just tell people that it's corrupt. You have to show people. This is why Trump had it look like Trump lost. Trump won. We know that. We have the results from Dominion and Seidel and so forth. We have the results from election night. We can see when the votes were changed. whom they were changed for, and even when they were deleted. There were a lot of votes for President Trump that were deleted, a lot of votes that were switched from President Trump to Joe Biden. The evidence is in. There are sworn affidavits. There's plenty of proof out there. And in time, they are going to show we, the people. They have to show us because we're not going to believe it any other way. And there are still going to be people who do not believe what is going to come to light. They're going to deny it. They're going to riot when they realize that Donald Trump is still the president. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you when things are going to go down, but just be careful. This is going to be a toxic situation for a little while. Notice when Biden was declared the president, when he had his victory speech, not a conservative went out to riot, to burn down buildings or cities. We don't do things that way. The liberal left does. So be careful. When Trump is declared the winner, and he will be vindicated. People will go to jail. There's going to be a lot of rough times ahead. But I actually think this may actually bring a lot of people together. Not everyone, of course, but I think when they realize over the last 8 years what has been done, I think people will come together. That's just me. That's just my take. I am Billy Ray Parrish for God's Gospel Radio Ministries, the Seed of a Nation, Talking Points. As you can see behind me, I am in my studio. I do thank each and every one of you for joining me. This is not the last episode. There are going to be many others. And I hope Michael Witt can be on with us as we do this because he's a big part of this. Bobby Lynn, continue to pray for Bobby and Mike both. There's a lot of hard work left ahead to do this here at the station and with the country, and we are going to take you through this. Again, do not buy the narrative that this is over with. It's not. I understand what's being said, but what's being said are all lies, or a majority of are lies. Even Satan takes some truth and mix it in there because otherwise nobody would believe him. I ask you, do not believe what you hear. I do my best to get back to anyone who emails me. I am just a regular man. I can be wrong. I have been wrong many times. And if I somehow mislead you, I am sorry. I do my best, but I do not have a crystal ball. I am telling you everything that I see out there. Everything, and it's not just me that's seeing these things. It's so many other smarter people who have boots on the ground. Not Lindsey Graham's one of them. Then you've got Sidney Powell. You've got Rudy Giuliani. You've got Richard Grenell. You've got these people who are actually a part of the process telling you this. This stuff is coming out, and it's coming out in droves. Sidney Powell said that it's coming out so fast you can't even process all of it. Stay tuned. It's not over with. Again, I am Billy Ray Parrish, and I am thanking you very much for tuning in. I ask you to share this with your friends. Look us up on social media. Look me up as well. I'm on YouTube, but I encourage you to go to Rumble. YouTube is no longer for the creator. They have gone away from that content. If you have a difference of opinion, they no longer encourage it. So check me out on Rumble. Dan Bongino's investment group, as well as Sean Hannity being there, Dinesh D'Souza, and so many others. Until next time, I thank you for joining me. God bless, stay safe, and God bless America.